that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 401st edition of Energy Week. Today is the 14th of January. That's the day we're recording it. We're going to start a week ago today on the 7th of January. And I want to remind everybody that we are trying to get some donations for Bctv, where the recording and editing of this TV show are done. Bctv is dependent on a certain amount of outside help.
It's not an enormous sum.
It's not. We need about $300 and some odd dollars to keep the show for the year, and we're looking for people to go to BrattleBoroTV.org, and in the upper right-hand area of the screen, there's a kind of an orangish button where you can support local broadcasting, and you can give by PayPal or by credit card. And when you fill in the amount, lower on the screen there's a place where you can put notes and put in there that this is to support Energy Week, so it'll be credited to the amount that we're raising for the show. Also, I want to mention the information that we've got here comes from my blog, geoharvey.com, and you can go there and click on the dates for the items, and that'll give you a chance to read the original articles. BCTV is also putting in the script that Tom and I use for the show, and also a document where you can download the entire script for the show. So, Tom,
I read all of these things in order to participate, and some of them I look at and I say, these are well worth reading, and I'll try and mention that.
Yeah. Are we set to go then, Tom?
As far as I'm concerned.
Okay, our first image is a wind farm, and we have an item from Pleasanton Weekly.
That's what I have.
What's the title, Tom?
East Bay Community Energy aims for 100% clean energy by 2030. You have to listen to figure out where East Bay is.
East Bay Community Energy committed to providing nearly 1.7 million local customers with 100% renewable energy in the next decade, 15 years ahead of California's target date. Now you know where East Bay is. East Bay Community Energy is one of the largest U.S. Electricity providers to commit to 100% renewables in 10 years.
Well, I can clarify what East Bay is, just in case anybody's wondering. It's a buying co-op serving the San Francisco area. The actual power is delivered by Pacific Gas and Electric. They have a unique situation there where you can buy into a buying co-op.
Yeah.
And that determines how much you pay for your power, even though the buying co-op themselves do not deliver the power. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like community aggregation, which we've been seeing making some progress in certainly in Massachusetts and I believe New York.
It is happening in Massachusetts. I'm aware of that, yes.
And there are people pushing for it in New Hampshire, and I don't know how many people are pushing for it in Vermont, but it could be a fair number. And, of course, the picture we've got there is just a picture of renewables.
Well, if I remember correctly, down in Greenfield, where they have this option, people are buying through the buying co-op, even though they're paying about a penny more for the power.
You mean people are buying regular electricity, not renewables, for extra price?
No, they're buying the renewables for extra price.
My recollection was that people in Greenfield are actually saving money buying renewables. They have the option of going to not buying renewables, but that costs extra.
I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I think you had it flipped, but
I think I did.
Should we go on, Tom?
Why not? Can't dance.
Okay, our next item, we have a picture of people installing solar panels and an article from Clean Technica.
States and cities are driving climate and clean energy progress.
Yeah, a third of the people in the United States now live in states and cities that are committed to 100% clean energy. The role of states, cities, and communities as climate leaders will continue to be vital even as President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris take the helm. And
well, the article takes a look at state and local climate progress in 2020 and what's in store for 2021.
Right.
Interesting article.
Yes. Our next one is we have a picture of an EMS cutaway. Whoops, there it is. And this
interesting vehicle.
Isn't it? That vehicle, by the way, if you look at it carefully, and I should mention this article comes from Clean Technica also. If you look at that carefully, you'll see that there are 4 people inside it in this drawing. 3 of them are wearing green uniforms, and one of them is lying on a stretcher.
I bet he doesn't feel too well.
I guess. This is an air ambulance, which can land just about anywhere. That person on the stretcher, it took me a while to see that, but the person who's closest to the viewer has got his right hand out over, what actually is another person lying on the stretcher.
There's a video at the link there that's interesting to watch.
Yeah. Okay, you have a title for this.
I do. City Hawk EVTOL, electrical vertical takeoff and land, gets off the ground following initial orders, and it's an emergency medical service. It's an ambulance, as you say.
Yeah. Israeli tech firm Urban Aeronautics has encouraging news. It said it received a pre-order for 4 of its innovative hydrogen fuel cell powered EVTOL vehicles from Hatzola Air, a company that specializes in developing helicopters and other aircraft for EMS applications. So
this is a wave of the future, because they systematically decrease the time it takes to arrive on scene, treat, and transport sick or injured patients.
Yes, and one of the things that's important about this is that this vehicle is small enough and shaped in such a way that it really could be landed very much closer to where you might find a patient than a helicopter, for example, would.
Well, it's not much bigger than a conventional ambulance.
Yes.
And it takes off straight up off the ground. It could drop you right at the hospital entrance.
Absolutely. So, this is a vehicle that is definitely got a place.
Well, they've been flying one of these things for a demonstration or to determine whether it's worthwhile. But it's been successfully flying for over a year.
Yeah.
It's unmanned. This is an experiment, but it looks like it's going to work. Yeah.
Okay, we're up to Friday, the 8th of January, and we have an interesting picture of a Tesla here. Whoops, there. Well, I'm having trouble.
Well, that's an automobile up there in space that was put up there by Elon Musk.
Yeah, and interestingly enough...
it's really there.
It's really there. If you get other photographs of this, you discover that car, believe it or not, is bright red. And the reason why it looks kind of gray and bluish gray in this picture is because it's reflecting the colors from the Earth behind it. And space is a little strange. It's getting sunshine, but the sunshine is bouncing in a different direction. Anyway, this particular article comes from the BBC. And
well, I'll tell you what it says. Elon Musk becomes the world's richest person as his wealth tops $185 billion. Now, who needs that much money?
What's that?
Who needs that much money?
Needs that much money. Anybody who's got $184 billion will be able to tell you that he really needs $185 billion. Elon Musk became the world's richest person as his net worth rose to $185 billion. Musk was pushed to the top slot after Tesla hit a market value of $700 billion. That makes the car company worth more than Toyota, Volkswagen, Hyundai, GM, and Ford all combined.
This is the total value of the stock, right?
It's the total value of the stock. And, you know, I look at that list of car companies and I'm saying, hey, you know, it wasn't that long ago when people were saying Tesla would never sell a car.
Yeah.
I mean, who has grown that fast? And the thing that even makes me more interested in this is Elon Musk published a list of the things that he seeks to do that are important in running a company. And the number one thing was the company is not set up to make money.
Is that so?
Yeah, it's set up to make products. And in this particular case, the thing that Tesla is really pushing is to save the world. So
okay.
Elon Musk's goal is not to make money for his stockholders. It's not to make cars. It's to save the world. Cars or batteries or anything else he's doing. And
I think we're going to talk about him again before the show's out.
I think we probably will. You have
Musk has taken the top spot from Amazon founder Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
Who held it since 2017.
Yeah, but Jeff Bezos got a divorce, and he gave in the divorce proceedings, his ex-wife got half of his value. So she is now the richest woman in the world, and he's only worth half as much as he was.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. Yeah. Well, if you're worth $84 billion, you really need that 85.
Let's move on here. We got a very interesting looking airplane.
We do indeed. And there it is. This is a flying V, and this article comes from the BBC.
Greener planes of the future, or just pretty plans? Very interesting pictures on this article.
There are a lot of pictures in this article, and they are interesting. In a traditional aircraft, the fuselage is basically dead weight and needs big wings to keep it in the sky. But newer aircraft designs are being tested. In some, the whole airframe provides lift, so it can be lighter and smaller than current designs, but can potentially carry the same payload. You know, Tom, I remember seeing flying wings when I was a kid. Do you remember that?
Oh, sure. They still make them. They still fly. There's still a few flying around.
Yeah, and that's part of that same old thing. In fact, during the Second World War, the Germans were trying to develop flying wings. I don't know that they ever built any. But this idea of having the whole aircraft be the wings is not new.
That makes sense to me.
It makes sense. And in this particular case, we've got an aircraft that it doesn't even look like those old flying wings. The old flying wings just looked like a couple of wings that were stuck together.
That's what it looked like. It looked like a flying wing.
Yeah. And this thing looks like an aircraft that has been somehow fractured and pulled apart. But obviously this is a passenger aircraft that they've got, and it's just one of those things. This is from Delft University, and how is this powered, Tom?
Powered by hydrogen.
There you go. That's
hydrogen fuel cells generate electric power, and the motors are electric.
Yeah, and so those things that look like jet engines, well, they're jet engines, but they don't operate like the jet engines on a 747 do. They're operating at a lot less pressure and a lot lower speed. But this aircraft, despite the fact that it looks like it's going to be going about a zillion miles an hour, is probably going to go something less than half a zillion miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Half a zillion is a little bit high, I think.
You think?
Hello?
Would you believe?
Can you hear me? I just dropped the phone, but I guess you can hear me.
I hear you, Tom. I can hear you just fine.
Good. Yeah, looking at this thing. Well, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say, but it's a very interesting. Oh, yeah, they actually have a 12-foot model of this plane flying.
Yeah. And the reason I said the thing about the zillions is this thing looks like it's designed to go at an extremely high speed, but it isn't. It's designed to go at a much more modest speed. But the purpose of the design is not to go fast. The purpose of this design is to provide for a greater capacity in an aircraft that is operating on electricity.
Well, from the standpoint of design, if the fuselage of the plane can be made to help lift the plane, they can put smaller wings on it, and that's basically what they're doing here. They're making the fuselage the wings.
That's right. Are you all set with that one, Tom, or should we?
I'm set. We can move on. We got a picture of a Boyd.
A Boyd. We've got a lot of birds in this particular edition of Green Energy Times. This particular bird is just a seabird, and this particular article comes from Renews. What do you got for a title?
Vattenfall makes room for seabirds off Norfolk. And we'll explain a little bit what that means.
Yeah. Swedish developer Vattenfall will use taller turbines than initially planned at the 1,800-megawatt Norfolk Vanguard and the 1,800-megawatt Norfolk Boreas projects. This is two projects, each of which is 1,800 megawatts. This is huge. After consultations with ornithologists, that's not ophthalmologists, this is ornithologists, bird studiers, the developer raised clearance heights to 30 meters from 22 to place rotors above the flight paths of birds. And you know what, Tom? I think that's going to cost them a lot of money.
You think it is, huh?
Yeah. Well, they're adding 8 meters to the height of the rotors. 8 meters is what? It's about
25 feet.
25. I think it's a little more, but
a little bit more.
But basically, they're making these things 2.5 stories taller than they had been planning, and this is because of birds that are way out of sea. This is not going to be sparrows that they're worried about. It's seagulls.
No, they're talking about seabirds.
Yeah, it's of various kinds.
Of various kinds, of which there are many, because I just saw a article about seabirds. Yeah.
Okay, are we set to move on, Tom?
Well, let's explain where it is. The two projects off Norfolk and eastern England will feature a combined 360 turbines. It's going to be a big project.
This is a pair of big projects.
Actually, it is, yes.
And these turbines are way out at sea. As I recall, they're something like 75 miles out.
I think you're right. I think you're exactly right.
Okay. You want to go on now?
Yeah, we got more birds.
We're up to Saturday, the 9th of January, and by golly, there's more birds. This reminds me of the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
The birds.
And here we have an article from Clean Technica.
Oil lobby cheers Trump policy that lets oil companies kill birds. Ta-da!
we have got, I don't know. With just 2 weeks left in office, the lame duck Trump administration published a rule that allows industries, this is not just oil industries, it's industries, to kill migrating birds as long as they don't intentionally kill them. The rule is based on a legal opinion that has been rejected and vacated by a federal judge as of last August. Is this, I don't know what's going on here in these people's minds. I just don't.
It's money, baby.
Well, yeah, but I mean, why would you pass a rule that has already been vacated? It doesn't make sense. And
well, you're trying to tell me Trump makes sense?
Well, we have seen some very interesting things in that regard.
Well, one thing for sure, he may not be president after a couple of weeks, but he's not going away.
Well, I don't know what's going to come out of that, and actually, I think I'd rather not even talk about it. But yeah, it's absolutely true. It's one of those things that's difficult, and by the time this article appeared, we had already been through some of the tough stuff. I'm just hoping that we don't have really bad times coming. But
well, if he can cause trouble, he will.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's true. Should we escape this?
Yeah, I think we should. We got a picture of the world here, and it doesn't look good. It's red for a reason.
Yeah, this is from CNN, and Copernicus Climate Change Service is a UN organization, as I recall. But what do you got for title, Tom?
2020 was tied for the hottest year ever recorded. The disasters fueled by climate change set it apart.
Yeah. Data from the Copernicus Climate Change Service made it official that 2020 tied 2016 as the hottest year on record. But it was abundantly clear that throughout 2020, that the world is already seeing worsening disasters from climate change. And man, that is not a joke, and we are going to get back to that before this show is over.
There's an interesting video on this site, 4 minutes, how the pandemic did or didn't impact carbon emissions.
Yes. Yeah.
4 minutes is worth looking at.
Yeah. And, as I said, we are going to see more because the stuff that was driven by climate change was wildfires all over the world.
All over the place. Big ones.
Big ones. Hurricanes.
The one in California is half the size of Windham County.
Yeah. There were hurricanes that were unlike any group of hurricanes. The storm season was appalling. We'll talk about it more. Okay, should we go on?
Well, it was the hottest decade ever recorded, which I haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
And it brought the planet closer to the 2.7 degree Fahrenheit threshold, which increases the risk for more extreme wildfires, droughts, floods, and food shortages. I want to add a few more things to the list.
6 of the 6 hottest years on record have been in the 6 last years.
Yeah.
And of the 20 hottest years on record, they are all in the last 21 years. So despite this, there are people out there who are saying the climate isn't changing. That's just a hoax.
It's a hoax, yeah. I'm a hoax. You're a hoax.
Well, yeah. I just don't know how to comprehend that.
Well, this article reminds of the urgency of ambitious emissions reductions to prevent adverse climate impacts in the future.
Yes.
And urgency is the active word there.
Urgent. There was an article about that appeared today in the news. We'll talk about it next week. It's getting dreadful. It really is.
Well, we get a nice picture of New York City coming up.
That's true, and there it is, by golly. Okay, this is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
Trump administration trying to force banks to finance fossil fuel projects. We've sort of touched base on this before, and now they're saying, Uncle.
This is well, let me read the synopsis first. Wall Street Bank slammed a proposal that would force lenders to finance fossil fuel projects and other businesses they deem to pose a reputational risk. Bloomberg.
But even the banks don't want it.
Yeah, they question both the legal underpinnings and the fast-track process that created it. And one of the things that I find interesting about this is traditionally conservatives have been in favor of a free market, and they've said we should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. And we should not be regulating the market. We shouldn't be telling people how to do business. And here is the Trump administration trying to tell the banks, of all people, how to do business. And it's just, I'm sorry, this is not conservatism at work.
Sort of illogical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not not the old style Republicans at work. It's the people who took over the Republican Party and have been running it in a new direction. So I don't know what to say about that, but there it is. You got more?
Well, we got another bird coming up.
We have another bird coming up, and
this time it's a tree swallow.
This is a tree swallow. I just find that a fascinating image, don't you?
Yes, it is quite the image.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Well, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and project partners team up to advance species conservation and wind energy deployment. This is kind of complicated.
Yeah. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory and Defenders of Wildlife have a 9-part webinar series. And this series has already been assembled, so you can actually go to the series and watch it to help familiarize stakeholders with the nuances of land-based wind energy development in the context of species conservation. So this is NREL, National Renewable Energy Laboratory, it's got some really bright people in it, part of the Department of Energy, U.S. Department of Energy, and they are trying to get advanced technology deployed, and the Advanced Species Conservation Defenders of Wildlife, have been they've been working together to try to make wind farms as bird-friendly as possible.
That's what the article is basically about. And it's important now because in 2019, wind overtook hydropower as the most used renewable generation source in the United States.
Yeah.
So we're going to be seeing more wind because it makes economic sense.
Yes. And there's more solar power being put in over the next year that we'll see that too. But
we will see that too.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Have you got more on this one?
I do, but I think I'll skip it.
Okay.
It's not that significant.
Okay.
Let's look at the next one here, where GM has got an ad featuring everybody in.
Everybody in, that's what it says. And you've got a title. This is from Clean Technica.
What is GM's new logo and ad campaign actually about?
General Motors debuted its Everybody In marketing campaign and redesigned GM logo in a private briefing for automotive and advertising reporters. They want to convince stakeholders that the company is really serious about accelerating mass adoption of electric vehicles. Now, they've got their own battery system. They've got their They
do. Well, yeah. GM has had a perceived lack of interest in electric cars. I mean, that's obvious. And they have looked at the future and they say, hey, guys, this is something we got to get on board of.
Yeah, and this Ultium platform that they've got, the picture shows a guy standing on the Ultium platform with a sort of a picture of a car body imagined above it. And
there's the batteries at his feet.
That's right. The batteries are right there, and that what you're looking at is basically the drivetrain of the car or pickup truck, if that's what they wanted to do with this drivetrain.
That's the guts of the thing, and it's just put on a different body.
That's right. That's what it is. Okay, more, or should we go on?
Well, let's go on.
We have an article from Wired and a picture of fireworks in Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Have you? Yeah. I used to live in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and one of the things that it was fun to do, if the weather was good enough, if it was foggy, it didn't work, but one of the things that was fun to do down there was to walk out on the water break, the wave break that went out into the bay, And a lot of people would go out there and watch the fireworks from across the river, and you'd see a picture that was like this.
I've loved watching fireworks.
Yeah, so do a lot of people. But nevertheless, what do you got for a title for this?
It's a question. What would it take to run a city on 100% clean energy?
Yeah. Today, more than 170 U.S. cities and towns have promised to shift their power supply from coal and natural gas to solar, wind, and hydropower. But can 100% renewable cities actually be 100% renewable? The reality is complicated, and it reveals the challenges of decarbonization.
Well, they didn't show Burlington for nothing here, because in 2014, Burlington produced enough power from renewable sources to cover all its electricity needs.
Yes. But have you got anything to say about the difficulties of decarbonization, Tom?
Not in this article.
Okay. You know, it's funny that you say that, because I read the article, and the author tried to say that decarbonization was going to be a problem, and actually it is, because it's not just the electricity that has to be done. You have to do your heat, and you have to do your cooking, and you have to do, and this is a big one, all of the vehicles. So there's a lot that has to be done. But, you know, I looked at that and I said, yeah, okay, so we do it. So what's the big deal? And I'm kind of glad to hear that your attitude toward it is similar to mine.
Well, they're talking about the city of Burlington itself using the energy, not the people in it.
Yeah.
And in Burlington, the energy is supplied by the Burlington city-owned electric company.
Yeah.
And they own a very large wood-burning plant.
They do indeed.
And that goes a long way toward providing their renewable sources. And one of the things they're doing, which is interesting right about now, is they're collecting Christmas trees. They're going to burn the Christmas trees to make energy.
Yeah. Well, Christmas trees, when they're given a little time to dry, burn like...
Oh, they burn pretty well.
Yeah, they do indeed.
And, of course, you got to get rid of them. So Burlington is going to chop them up and burn them for electricity.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. Okay, our next image is, who is this guy?
That's Arnold.
He said he was going to return. I'm coming back. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, I think he did, and he is coming back.
This is an article in Clean Technica, but really the article points to a YouTube video that you can just see by going to YouTube and typing in Arnold Schwarzenegger in a search.
You'll see that picture.
Yes, you'll see that picture. And this has been all over the place. It's been in a lot of media. What do you have for a title, Tom?
Climate Action Hawk. Arnold Schwarzenegger brings Conan's sword down upon Trump enablers.
Everyone is buzzing about a video Arnold Schwarzenegger circulated. In it, Schwarzenegger, a lifelong Republican, excoriates Trump and his enablers in Congress, identifying the insurrectionists and their supporters in Congress with Nazis. Okay, this show that we're doing is about energy, and it happens that the forces that are trying to prevent green energy from being installed as fast as possible to deal with climate change, those forces which also deny climate change or try to make it trivial are the same forces that were behind this thing that happened in Washington, D.C. That
seems to be the case.
Yeah, and so what do we do about that? Well, Schwarzenegger wants to hold them accountable, and it's not just Donald Trump he wants to keep accountable, make accountable. It's the people who are identified as enablers in Congress. And I don't know if
he still considers himself a Republican.
Yes, he does.
So he's talking to his goombas.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, by the way, that Colin Powell has left the Republican Party. But,
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was in the news today.
Now, this is a long article. If you got the time, it's worth reading.
Well, it's worth watching the video. It's a long video.
If you can, yeah, and you can get to the video by the article.
Yeah.
And there's a quote from the video. President Trump is a failed leader. This is Schwarzenegger talking. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. And in the video, he displays the sword he used as Conan the Barbarian.
Right.
To illustrate a point.
I have a feeling that what's going to happen is we're going to learn things about why people have been denying climate change over the next year or two.
I think we are. I think a lot of stuff's going to come out.
I think a lot of stuff will, and a lot of stuff about renewable energy, and I think that the change that we are seeing is going to be, well, I want the Republican Party to survive, to tell you the truth, Tom. I just don't want it to survive in its current form. I haven't voted Republican.
I would agree with you there.
I haven't voted Republican since 2003, and I voted pretty much straight Republican before that. But the thing that made the change was that I could see that they were denying climate change. And I just couldn't put up with that.
Let's move along here. We got an interesting picture of the future.
An interesting picture of the future, and there it is. This
a self-driving car.
Yeah, it's not a car really. It's a delivery wagon. It is
that.
Not only is nobody driving that, there's really no place in it for a person to be. This is a funny vehicle. So what do you have? This is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a?
Well, the company is called Neuro.
Yeah.
So Neuro gets California's first autonomous vehicle permit. By the way, they've gotten permits in other states, a few other states, but this is the first time they got one in California. And as you know, California's got a lot of people.
It's got a lot of people, and it's got a huge economy. If it were an independent country, it would be one of the biggest economies in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
On Thursday,
well, California-based Neuro focuses on delivery services using small vehicles, like you're seeing there. Now it is able to actually operate a commercial delivery service that leaves out the humans, which is likely to become common in the future. Now, you got something you got to read, and I'm stepping on your tongue, so why don't you read it?
It's fine. On Thursday, November 19th, 2020, California Public Utilities Commission approved the ability to both launch robotaxi services and autonomous delivery services. And, of course, Neuro is the autonomous delivery. And to charge for them. The first company to get a permit to do so was Neuro, and by that and to charge for them thing means that Neuro can charge for the deliveries. And this vehicle has doors in the side. If you order a pizza, it'll show up at your door and the door opens and you can take out your pizza. And I don't know what they do about the fact that there's going to be another pizza for the next person over. There's got to be some way of addressing it.
I bet you they got that figured out.
They've undoubtedly got it all figured out, yeah. Yep.
Well, this is likely to be common in the future. If you got stock in UPS, you might consider selling it.
I think it's going to be a while before that change comes about. But there are some interesting pictures in this article, and they show this vehicle from the side with the doors open. So you can get a good view of what it's like. Okay?
Let's move on.
Okay.
Got an interesting picture of batteries.
Of batteries. This picture has been used on the show before. I try not to reuse pictures, but this is the one that came up. And this article is from Renew Economy.
Okay. NEON, the name of a company, plans a massive 500-megawatt big battery west of Sydney. Interesting things going on in Australia.
Well, the fact that they've got a 500-megawatt battery, it was only like 2 years ago that the 100-megawatt Hornsdale Power Reserve, which you're looking at here, was mind-bogglingly big.
Well, you can see all of those horizontal buildings there are batteries.
Yeah, and this one is 500 megawatts as opposed to that one's 100 megawatts, and this one is 1,000 megawatt hours as opposed to the Hornsdale Power Reserve's 130 megawatt. So it's 5 times as big in terms of power, and it's 8 times as big in terms of energy. So, as I said, this is from Renews, and the synopsis says Australia's largest battery storage project will be built, could be built just outside Sydney. Planning documents submitted by renewable energy developer Neoen show the company intends to kickstart the planning process for the 500 megawatt, 1,000 megawatt hour big battery in New South Wales. So there you have.
Well, they're getting bigger than that already, as we speak.
Now,
and this one's going to replace a 1,000 megawatt coal power station. Yeah. That's at the location.
Are you set on that article, Tom?
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to spend a couple of minutes on this next one. The graph is up, and this is an article that came. I generally don't take government press releases. This particular one I did, because I could see that nobody was getting the most important thing about this news right. And so we're up to Tuesday, January 12th.
I'll read what it says. Renewables account for most U.S. electricity generating capacity in 2021. So they're projecting this year.
This is projecting this year, and it's the U.S. Department of Energy doing it. It is the Energy Information Administration, which historically has not been. They've underestimated what renewables would do, year after year after year after year. I'm going to read the blurb. The U.S. Information Administration's latest data shows developers and power plant owners plan for 39.7 gigawatts of new capacity to start commercial operation in 2021. Of that, 39% will be solar, 31% will be wind, 16%, that is 1/6%, will be natural gas, 11% will be batteries, and 3% nuclear. Now,
and that nuclear is iffy.
The nuclear is today. It's more iffy than it was when this was printed.
Yeah.
Because it's the public service people in Georgia are saying it's going to be delayed again. But the thing that's important.
We've talked about that plant. What's the name of it?
That's Vogtle.
Vogtle, yes, exactly.
The thing that's important here is the 16% natural gas is down from an amount that was installed in 2019 that was 42% of all installations. That's
a big drop.
It's a big drop. Part of that, a large part of it, was explained by the fact that the capacity of the installations has just burgeoned. But the absolute drop in natural gas was from 8.8 gigawatts to 6.6. So that continues to be a big drop, and it's been going on for years.
Well, one of the things that seems to be happening is that these natural gas finds are petering out faster than they expected.
Yeah, and what's happening is the people who had ordered natural gas plants and had broken ground on them and started construction are still building them. But the impetus to do that is really declining fast, 14% per year for the last 4 or 5 years. But the thing that's important here, you look at that picture and you see at the bottom of that ring is the batteries. 11% of new capacity this year is expected to be batteries. 4.3 gigawatts of batteries, and guess what? That batteries had never appeared on the chart before.
Is that so? So
yeah.
This is significant.
This is big. Now those batteries are actually getting to a point where they're starting to challenge natural gas, which only a couple of years ago was by far, in fact, I think last year, was by far the biggest single amount going in. You don't, compared to others like wind, solar, and so forth, independently, not as a group. You could, if you compared natural gas with renewables as a group last year or the year before, it would have come in second. But
Well, the Energy Information Administration is predicting the capacity of utility-scale battery storage will quadruple.
Yeah, this is quadrupling. This is huge. It's not quadrupling the installations. It means that the total amount installed will quadruple. In other words, the amount that they're expecting to be installed this year is 3 times as great as the total sum of all that have ever been installed in the past.
That's significant.
This is huge. This is absolutely huge. And somehow the media just didn't get it. So I wrote an article about it for Green Energy Times, and it basically says what I just said. And Green Energy Times is going to be out in maybe 2 weeks, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, what the article says is correct. These systems are increasingly paired with renewables.
Yes.
And it makes sense because the renewables aren't on all the time. The wind doesn't always blow. The sun doesn't always shine. So what do? You make power while the sun shines. And then you save it.
And the other thing is, the electricity from the batteries is higher quality than the electricity from the natural gas power plants.
Oh, you're going to have to explain that.
Well, the natural gas, if the demand changes, historically the fast responders to the change were natural gas power plants, peaking plants, actually load following plants. And those plants could ramp up or down in a few minutes. But these batteries can...
They're very expensive to run.
Yeah, they're very expensive. These batteries provide inexpensive power, and they can respond instantly.
Instantly?
Batteries can...
Push a switch.
Yeah. These batteries can respond in like 1,000th of a second, which means that, we're on 60 cycle AC power, which means it cycles 60 times a second. These batteries can respond in less than 1 cycle. So we can have really high quality electricity where the power is absolutely even, and we don't have to speed up our clocks and slow them down, which is what.
So that's what you mean by high quality. The amount of volts stays even.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
You said it in 4 words, and I said it in 60.
Well, let's move on here. We're going to start talking about coal. We got a nice picture of a 2880 megawatt coal power plant, and by the looks of it, it looks like it's got some storage on battery storage down there too.
Well, you got a title? This is from Energy Storage News, by the way. What do you got for a title for it?
Coal power plant site in Australia could host a 700 megawatt, 2800 megawatt hour battery storage project.
We were just talking about this, and it's happening. The
Absolutely.
Company Origin Energy Limited issued a call for qualified firms to supply and install a battery storage system of up to 700 megawatts, 2,800 megawatt hours, which will be built at the site of the retiring coal burner in New South Wales. This factory is one that only a few years ago, the government of Australia was really lobbying hard to keep open because they want coal to keep going. And now it's getting cut down, and a huge battery is going to be put there.
Well, as Bill Clinton might have said, it's the money, stupid.
Yes, indeed. And one of the things that's interesting about this is it's not tied to a solar farm or a wind farm. It's just leveling the load for the grid.
That doesn't care where the electrons come from.
I suppose that's true.
It just puts them on a shelf and waits till you need them.
Yeah, they're trying to do what I was just saying, and that is improve the quality of the electricity.
Exactly.
So, there it is. There it is. Should we go on, Tom?
Yeah, we got a little scary picture of hurricanes here.
We have a picture of hurricanes, and there it is. They aren't all hurricanes, actually. These are the named storms in the Atlantic system, in the Atlantic hurricane season, and I forget how many of them were hurricanes. There's 30 of them there, and I think the number of hurricanes was 13. Have I got that right?
I don't know, but there looks like a lot of hurricanes in those pictures.
There are a bunch of hurricanes in those pictures, yes. That's right. And this particular item is from CNBC. And what do you have for a title?
Climate change has cost the United States billions of dollars in flood damage.
Intensifying rainfall fueled by climate change has caused nearly $75 billion in flood damage in the United States in the last 3 decades, Stanford University researchers confirmed in a study that was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So there you've got it.
There's a 2-minute video at this link, worth looking at.
Yeah.
And it shows you what looks like a river, and it's a city street.
Yeah.
The findings shed light on how climate change has impacted homeowners, builders, banks, and insurers. Yeah. A record number of hurricanes, wildfires, and floods cost the world $210 billion in damage last year.
Yes. And it's very sad, but that's what's happening. And it's not going to get better until we start dealing with the climate. And it's probably not going to get better until a long time after that. This is just going to keep getting worse until people get serious.
We got to stop burning things.
We have to stop burning things. That's exactly correct. Okay, do you want to move on?
Yeah, we got a picture here. It's kind of hard to see what's actually in the picture.
Well, it's a big power plant in the background.
In the background, way back in the big background, you can see the cooling towers, and you can see the apparent pollution coming out of the cooling towers, which is really just steam. Yeah. The pollution comes from the stacks, which you really can't see in this picture.
You can see just to the left of the right-hand-most cooling tower, which looks rather small, actually. You can see a stack. And the thickness of that stack suggests to me that this particular plant is a coal-burning power plant. But
I'm looking at what looks like 2 stacks, but
maybe it is. You might be right about that. That can make it look like one if they happen to be.
Yeah, they're close together, at least from this angle.
Yeah.
Well, the article says U.S. carbon emissions fell 10% in 2020. Well, that's good news, but it's not enough of it. Because of and it happened because of COVID-19. Now it's up to Biden to stop them from bouncing back.
Yeah, this is from CNN. U.S. greenhouse gas emissions dropped a lot in 2020, helping the country meet long-standing climate targets. But experts warn that unless climate action becomes a priority, emissions will bounce back quickly. And you know, when I read this article, it occurred to me that President-elect Biden has got, he really has a lot of work ahead of him. The climate change is one thing. He's got COVID-19, another thing. He's got to unite the people in this country behind democracy.
He's got a lot of work ahead of him. That was your words, and that's absolutely right.
If he can succeed at those 3 things, he will go down in history as one of the greatest presidents this country has ever had. And
well, this article's got a good video. It's about 4 minutes, and it says how the pandemic did or didn't impact carbon emissions.
Yes.
Worth looking at.
Yes.
Actually, I've seen that video before somewhere else, but seeing it again isn't a waste of 4 minutes.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Now we've got a clearer picture, which happens to be a picture of a Tesla.
Is that what that is, huh? How can you tell it's an electric car?
There's no grid. No grid.
Bingo!
No
Hit the nail on the head. Give that man a cigar.
Well,
that's a picture of a Tesla, and absolutely right. There's no grid. No grill.
I knew that because you had pointed it out a couple of times.
Well, Elon Musk is taking Tesla beyond other automakers with common sense and long-term thinking.
Yep. Elon Musk is working tirelessly and methodically to reach goals he set a long time ago, a process that he knew would take years or decades. Tesla's master plan is a three-part strategy to bring about mid-priced EVs to the mass market. So his plan originally was all about getting affordable cars that were EVs to ordinary people. And all of these expensive EVs that he has been building were built in order to get EVs accepted. That's, you know, this.
He's doing a good job.
This man, I think, is kind of brilliant.
Well, we said that earlier in this show.
Yeah,
not in so many words, but we certainly said that. Well, there's another video in his show which is interesting. There's a billionaire tech investor whose name I can't pronounce. He's an Indian. He's American, really. Comments on Elon Musk and his long-term outlook for Tesla.
Yes.
It's on YouTube from CNBC television.
Okay. All right. And now we've got our final piece, which is from Clean Technica, and it has a picture of the stratosphere,
which is the second layer of the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, the troposphere is below it. And,
bingo.
And the stratosphere is where airplanes, long-distance fast jets fly, because it doesn't have the turbulence of the lower areas, and you can kind of see, you know, the clouds, the fluffy clouds that where the air is moving around a lot are below this thing. And
yeah, you can, right?
Yeah. Okay, this, as I said, was from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title here?
Well, it's an interview with a climate researcher called Daniela Domason, and she's talking about extreme weather from the stratosphere. Right.
Daniela Domason has documented how the stratosphere influences extreme weather events. In an interview, she explains what the sheer range of these impacts implies for climate research and long-term weather forecasts. And, you know, it has become clear, as I read that article, that there's a ton of stuff we don't know. And what she's been doing is looking at the stratosphere above the North Pole, among other things, and finding out how changes in that, which includes huge changes in temperature, have effects thousands of miles away. And, you know, these polar vortexes that we see come up every year, they come up because of the stratosphere changing.
I got a quick takeaway. The stratosphere, which is between 15 and 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. How much is that? About 10 to 25 miles or so?
What was the figure again? 15 to 50?
15 to 50.
Yeah, that sounds like it's about 10 to 60 miles.
Yeah. And it influences surface weather. Extreme cold snaps, severe storms, extreme forest fires, mini hurricanes. And these weather models that she's working on already simulate the stratosphere, just not well enough. We don't know how the stratosphere will develop in the future.
Yes.
Interesting interview.
It is, and one of the things that comes out of this, and by the way, I said 15 to 60, I should have said 15 to 80. One of the things that comes out of this is that with a better understanding of the stratosphere above the North Pole and in other places, we're going to be able to do better long-range weather forecasts. So that's why this is getting included. And, you know, the difference in temperature, I was really stunned by, you know, 100-degree change all of a sudden in the temperature, sudden. And it has its effect. So are we done with that, Tom?
I think that's the last item on the show.
That is, and that means we have our last slide up, which is wishing people to have a perfectly untroubled week. We hope that people who are watching have a perfectly untroubled week, and that would be a very nice thing. So,
amen.
Goodbye from us. We're waving.
Adios.
Adios.